So, Mike, what is this that we're looking at right here?
Well, you're looking at the cover of the Argosy magazine, which had the very first article ever written about the Minnesota Iceman. The article was written by Ivan Sanderson, and this was a carcass of a dead hominid, some kind of a wild man, for lack of a better name, that was frozen in a block of ice and displayed in circus sideshows, carnivals, and state fairs. This man named Hansen had it in a refrigerated truck, and he would carry it from fair to fair and from carnival to carnival and set up an exhibit and charge people 25 cents or so to take a look at this thing, frozen in a block of ice. Now, it's been greatly maligned over the years. This particular article shows some pretty good photographs that were taken of the ice at a time when the ice was, fairly clear. You could see through it fairly well. Over time, the ice got cloudier and cloudier, and it was hard to see anything through the ice. Then there was this whole problem that arose when Sanderson and Bernard Heuvelmans. Bernard Heuvelmans was one of the first people to use the term cryptozoology, and he was one of the founders of the Cryptozoology Society that was formed back in 1983. He was a Frenchman, and he, or a Belgian, I might be mistaken on that, whether he was French or Belgian, one or the other, but he wrote in French anyway. And he did a lot of work on unknown animals, as did Sanderson. So they wrote this article, and the only one that would publish it was Argosy magazine at that time. And I went to a symposium at Pullman at Washington State University when Grover Krantz was still alive, and he hosted a symposium there. It was called the Sasquatch Symposium, and it was a meeting of the International Society of Cryptozoology. And at that gathering, I met a man named Terry Cullen. Now, Terry Cullen, when I met him, was in his 40s, and he was a very well-established herpetologist, and he spent a lot of time traveling the world looking for rare reptiles. And that was his main thing. He was an expert in reptiles. But he gave a little talk at the symposium at the request of John Green and some of the Krantz, because he was the first scientist to actually call attention to the Minnesota Iceman. He saw it when the ice was very clear, and at the time that he saw it, he was a graduate student in zoology, and he said that every day he was up to his armpits in animal tissues in a laboratory as a graduate student, and he had occasion to pop into the little sideshow exhibit, and he looked at that thing in the ice, and he went, "Oh my God, that's a real carcass." And this man Cullen, if you were to meet the man, you'd realize he's a very precise, very scientific sort of man, and he's not one to make idle statements about anything. He's a very particular person. And he was very particular when he spoke about this to say, "I'm not telling you that was a Bigfoot in the ice. I don't know what it was. All I'm telling you is it was a real carcass." And he stressed that over and over again. And he said that he went to the exhibit numerous times and looked at it. He brought a friend in who was a dentist, and they took a look at it at one point, because you could see the teeth, according to him, in at least one view of this thing. Although some of the paintings show it with its mouth closed, I'm pretty sure that you could actually see the teeth when the mouth was open. But when Sanderson did his painting, he closed the mouth on it. Anyway, the point is the man spent a whole lot of time looking through the ice at this carcass, and he told me that he could see sebaceous secretions coming out of the pores, and that he actually looked all over the entire body trying to find a place where the thing had been sutured or sewn together, because he said it was obviously genuine tissue. So he thought maybe they had taken different body parts and sewn them together to create this thing, but he could find no indication of that all the times he looked at it. So the bottom line here is that when Sanderson and Heuvelmans were through looking at the carcass and writing up their report on it, they told the man that was running the exhibit, Hansen, that he should be sharing this with science, and that this was a much more important find than something that should be taken off and shown at a carnival sideshow. And Hansen said, "No, I'm sorry, but I'm paid to do that by the owner of the carcass, and I'm going to continue to do so. In spite of what you think, it's in my possession, and I'm not going to pay attention to your warning." So they actually then threatened to contact, and then I'm told they actually did contact the FBI. And then Hansen got a call from J. Edgar Hoover, who of course was the head of the FBI at that time, and they were questioning him about this body that he was taking around from state to state, because it's against federal law to take a dead body across the state line. You can't just do that. There's no interstate trafficking of dead bodies. And so the FBI was very interested in taking a closer look at his body, and so Mr. Hansen at that point got pretty worried about it, and he contacted a Hollywood special effects man and had a rubber dummy made that was a duplicate of the Iceman, and they replaced the actual exhibit, which originally had been a carcass, with this facsimile that had been produced by a Hollywood special effects man.
How do we know that he ordered this thing?
We know that because this is the story that was told by Sanderson and Wavelmans after the fact, and I have reason to believe this. See, there was a lot of stories told about this over the years, and as a matter of fact, Hansen, the guy who was in possession of the body, claimed that there was a millionaire that owned the body, and that he was using it to test people's reaction to the idea of evolution. And there are even rumors that the rich person that owned the body was James Stewart, the actor. So there's lots of crazy stories wrapped around by this thing. But having spoken with this man Cullen, I'm really convinced that there at one time, at least, was a genuine carcass in the ice. And so when the Smithsonian finally showed up, because they were reticent to look at it in the beginning, Cullen told me he called about 11 different universities trying to get somebody to take actual attention and look at this thing, and nobody would until he got a hold of Sanderson, and they were the first scientists to actually look at it. So finally the Smithsonian showed up, but by the time they showed up to take a look, the real carcass had been removed, and the rubber substitute was in its place. And of course the headlines in the newspaper read, "Scientists fooled by rubber dummy," and they were referring to Wavelmans and Sanderson, and claiming that they had made a big hoopla about this thing when all it was a fake. Well, Mr. Cullen convinced me that the original was not a fake, and that there was a substitute that took place during the course of the exhibiting of this. And that's the story as I know it.